Hi, Steve Gamache here with a Chef Knives to Go quick look product video on the Shun Premier 9-inch bread knife. This series of knives has a core steel of VG10 stainless with a heat treat rating about 60 to 61, same steel they use in the classic series. The construction is a multi-layered stainless cladding with a Damascus pattern over the top of that core steel. So these are mirror polished, so it's a little hard to tell. See if we can get a little closer here. But it's a tighter pattern than you'll see on the classic series into the core steel. You can kind of see right on the edge there. A little hard to tell with these serrations, but there it is. And they've got a hammered finish on the face of the blade before the grind starts towards the edge. Very nice looking configuration. The weight is about 7.7 ounces, 218 grams, and the blade length is 9 1/4, 235, so it's a little longer than the classic series. We'll compare the two in a minute. The overall length, 14.5. The spine at the base is 1.9. Again, thinner than the classic series. And it pretty much carries out most all the way through down to the end. And then the height's a little taller than classic series at 38.5. The edge profile on these has a gentle curve. And the handle on these is their really nicely done oval ambidextrous handle with an embossed end cap. And a little bit of a flare here for ergonomics, and then a little smaller bolster than you'd find on the classic series. The blade is pretty stiff, even though it's a little thinner. It's not quite as stiff as the classic, but it's pretty stiff all the way through the blade, about the same stiffness. And they're thin at the edge. And as I mentioned in the classic series, this has very similar scalloped serrations as the classic does, and I did a little testing in the classic series, and it looks like you'll be able to sharpen these without a problem on the corner edge of a sharpening stone. They're wide enough apart with round enough valleys and peaks to allow that to happen. So the cool thing is you can sharpen these serrations and keep them razor sharp, and there's also a bevel here at the tip as well. So definitely able to sharpen this particular blade serration style. Let's go ahead and bring in the talk about balance point. One more thing first. Balance point's just right about here. Feels real good in your hand. Let's bring in the classic just so you can see the two since we have them on hand. The classic is a little heavier knife. It's a little thicker blade, and it's not quite as tall as the Premier. The Premier is actually lighter overall. I think that's probably due to the handle and probably due to the blade being thinner, but it's a little taller, a little longer, and a little lighter. So again, the Premiers are a little more aggressive on the thinness of the blade itself and towards the edge. The serrations look almost identical between these two as far as the style goes, so you'll be able to sharpen the serrations on both, in my opinion. So really nice bread knives. So there you have the Shun Premier 9-inch bread.